Hi, my name is Monica and welcome to Guru Grit, the channel where we like to explore our curiosities, come together, learn from each other, and hopefully find ourselves one step closer to our potential every time. One video at a time, one question at a time, one answer at a time, one curiosity at a time, and so forth. So, today I would like to discuss something that is constantly brought up several times a year. If you're into astrology, I'm sure you notice, as I am, and that is Mercury Retrograde. And it doesn't matter how long I've been doing this and how many times I have said it, I feel it bears repeating because it keeps coming up. It keeps coming up. And the most important thing astrology has taught me is something about the human condition. From a very young age, we believe we externalize our power, and there's always something out there that's holding all the strings, like an anvil waiting to drop on our head and squash us, or a helping hand to pull us out of despair. And we're entirely powerless to our own potential, our own sovereignty. It's insane. I think it's crazy, so I'm happy. I'm very, pleased with all the work that I've done on myself and I've been able to do for others through this medium to understand how people think. And this is what it boils down to. The hundreds of charts I've looked at and the readings I've done, there seems to be a common overtone of belief that nothing in your life will work until everything lines up outside of you rather than inside of you. And that isn't so. Free will exists. Birth chart or no birth chart. How many people have never had a birth chart cast for themselves and they're living magical fairy tale lives happily ever after? Just consider that. But Mercury retrograde happens a few times a year. So it seems that a few times a year, people give themselves free rein to fly into a panic and fearmonger and scaremonger. And I find this really interesting. So this is why today's topic I want to talk about Mercury retrograde, fear-mongering, and personal power, personal empowerment. Most importantly, the R word, responsibility, personal responsibility. When you take responsibility for yourself, for whatever's in your chart, you can make anything happen in your life. But that implies that you're the one doing it. So when something goes right, you did that. And when something doesn't go right, you did that too. But that's okay. It can always be rectified. But the point is not to dwell on it. The point is not to just stay stuck there. You can be in a bad place, but don't make it your resting place. Keep it moving. So for this season's Mercury retrograde, what I'd really like to talk about is the nature of Mercury and what this can mean for everyone, for any Mercury retrograde cycle. Mercury is an expressive planet. Rules intellect. Geminis are very, very clever, very cunning. Virgos are very, flexible, intelligent sign, cerebral, both of them. So when Mercury goes retrograde, it's not telling you that you lose some type of identity or sense of self-expression, but that you take a breather from expressing something out there and look within. No one cries when they have to go to sleep, at least not in their adult years. You look forward to rest. You look forward to taking a break. It's like going on vacation. It's the same thing. You're just taking some relief from the externalities. And the only time things constantly go wrong on Mercury retrograde is for people who believe that it will for them. I had a coworker who wasn't really into astrology, but every Mercury retrograde she would say, I always get parking tickets. And then I remember she came to work one time and she was leaving the Whole Foods downtown and she got into it with the parking officer or whatever and took photos and yelled at them and recorded their interaction, and she had this many seconds on the thing and she was going to go to court and she was going to fight it and make her point. And I just remember thinking, if you'd never said at the beginning of the retrograde that this happens to you in a retrograde, it probably wouldn't have happened. And then I thought, astrology aside, Isn't it just so much easier to pay the ticket than to fly into a fit? And this has happened to me too. Wrong or not wrong, the principle of the matter is pick the path of least resistance. It just feels better not to feel like you're up against the world. I need to find a new location, but since I had a horrible allergic reaction to the last time I was in the wilderness, I'm playing it safe for now. So, you know, it will unfold and solve itself when you make peace with the situation. It's happened to me where I thought, I really don't want to pay this ticket. It really was unfairly given. But it feels worse. It feels worse to put up a fight. And I let it go and I said, you figure it out to the world. And I found the exact to the dollar amount on the ground within a week and just went and paid it off. It was no problem. But this is what I'd like to stress about. The time for Mercury retrograde is very valuable. People treat it as a nuisance. It isn't. It's necessary. Just how they think about their teenage years or spells of heartbreak or financial hardship, that it's a nuisance. But there's so much value in difficult times. There's so much value in confusion. And you'll be grateful for it when you're out of there. So just be grateful for it now. You wouldn't publish a book without editing it. And I know you surely don't enjoy watching movies or TV shows with a sound tech stumbling across set, crashing into things, interrupting the scene. You like nice, pristine, crisp work. So this is the time to sharpen your skills, to sharpen yourself. Do better. And life doesn't have to come to a standstill during retrograde. In fact, it's a time to finish things that you couldn't before. It gives you an extra push. It gives you an interest to dig up some old research, some old work, and get it done. Isn't that refreshing? Even with people. Maybe tie up some loose ends. It's a wonderful time. Cultivate yourself. So this is the thing about the human condition, is we always think there's something out there stopping us from being great. Enough. Mercury retrograde doesn't let you do that. He says, go inside yourself. Stop caring what other people think. What you think is so much more important. If you think you're great, you're going to be great. Stop listening to that outer chatter. It's mind-numbing. It's absolute gibberish. Stop it. So take responsibility for yourself. Take responsibility for your life. You won't even feel the effects of Mercury retrograde. And if you did, you would laugh about it. You would think it was cute. You're like, look at what life is trying to show me. It's hilarious. You wouldn't take it so personally. So enjoy this time. Empower yourself. Take responsibility for your life. Whatever occurs, it's valuable to you. And I implore you, please, don't look at your chart and think, but mine's retrograde. Is it worse? Let me answer a question with a question. How is something that's not bad to begin with worse for you versus other people? If it's not bad to begin with, how could it be worse? It's just what is. Everything has its time. It's appointed hour. Even in winter, nature needs its rest. So we need our rest sometimes. Sometimes I think the reason people don't really mesh with Mercury retrograde is because we need rest from ourselves. We need some respite from our own selves. And consider the modern times that we live in, especially depending on the part of the world that you live in. We pride ourselves on a culture of busyness. You know, whoever does more has more value. Whoever is too cool to see you, they have more value. They're more unattainable. They're too busy. So when there's a time of slowing down, I think it makes us more anxious than anything. But there's no need for that. It's a good thing. So go take your rest. Stop scaring yourself. It was never intended to make you feel paranoid or afraid. You can still travel. I signed a lease during Mercury retrograde before in a very tricky place in my chart, and it was one of the best places I ever lived, because you go forward with that mentality that it needs to be done. It's going to be done. It's going to go my way. And yes, I'll double check it and make sure. Of course, I'll be responsible, but I'm not going to be a victim to something outside myself. Ever, ever, ever. And you know what? Mercury wouldn't appreciate that either. He's the planet that rules experimentation, so he would want you to try things. You would be cautious in any case. That's generally good advice for any person, to be mindful, to be responsible. But I think when it's emphasized, it bothers us. But it must be done. Be your own power. Go forth, live fearlessly, and I hope you enjoy the retrograde period. I hope it gives you some much needed rest from the madness of the world, and you gear up for a wonderful and fun summer. Thank you so much for being here, and I wish you the best.